So, still playing Stonewall here. The Confederates are trying to take advantage of their big advantage, which is mobility. The Union has this morale track that they have to keep spending, and they can only keep, one brigade in action at any given time, basically. Well, so the Confederates were getting pinned down and engaged. They've pulled back a little and facing Kimball's primarily now, and threatening Pritchard's Hill again. Now Kimball's got to pull back. He can't afford to give any possibility of getting doubled around on. I'm going to handle the firepower coming in here. We also see the cav pushing back to where it was. And now, there's sort of this opening threats in any direction. This was the danger of bringing Kimball down. You bring Kimball off the hill, well, now we put a threat on Kimball, and the next movement is going to have to be to disengage and bring Kimball back into his defensive position. And then we're back where we were. The Confederates could concentrate their fire against the 2nd Brigade, or they could swerve around and maybe take on Tyler, or make the ugly attack on Pritchard's Hill, which I don't want to make. After the firing, almost nothing's happened. I think the Confederates took 1 casualty on the 1st Brigade. The Union took nothing. The casualty chart is so finicky in this game, and so you have to put so many forces into one shot to get a chance of doing something, and if you roll low, you still don't do anything. You have to get it up to the ridiculous level to assure damage, but getting it to that level seems like a waste. It feels like you'd rather try to increase your possible total effect. I did do one thing that is allowed in the system, which is splitting fire. So when I added these up, I ended up at the 11 number. Well, 11's just short of a chart increase. So I fired 1 strength point from this into here, and then the other 3 fired elsewhere. It increases the possibility and the risk of getting an ammo depletion. That's the disadvantage of it. If I roll a 6, which is in general a good roll, it usually does more casualties than other things, except where artillery is concerned firing. But it ends up, it could take effect before my next roll, so I might not get that 2nd shot off even. That's okay. It gives more shots. But down here, I chose for the Confederates not to fire back here. They took some fire on low odds tables, but they didn't return fire because their ammo is not a good situation. If they were to get the supply wagon back, if they were to capture the supply wagon, then they could take these chancier shots. But it's more dangerous in this game to take shots at long range, low odds, because basically if you succeed, in the event that you actually succeed, you are adding the chance of an ammo depletion, and it's just not worth the payoff as far as I'm concerned. Alright, we're on to the Union. I boost their points, and they've got enough they could actually move to 2 brigades if they want to. Do they want to? I don't know. We'll see. Well, this pinned result is kind of painful, along with another factor, which is if they move this unit, they'd generate withdrawal fire. So there's a couple of disincentives to moving Kimball at this point. Instead, I'm just moving Tyler, and I pulled him down, try to cover Pritchard's Hill as best as I can. I think I'm at risk. I think I'm going to probably have a problem at getting outflanked with Kimball there. Now, the next question is, do I want to move Sullivan's 2nd forward and put more pressure? And I think the answer to that is yes. I've got a decent amount of points right now, so I'm going to trigger them and move them forward as well, and try to put as much pressure on the Confederates as possible to make it harder to take Pritchard's Hill before I can get Tyler fully deployed. And we're moving right up. We're going to make this a real fight here, and assuming that we don't get driven back by the Confederate fire, well, it's going to come to bayonets, and we're going to come crashing across. Kimball can't bring bayonets in. He's not active, so all he can do is fire combat. But Sullivan's brigade can go in and try to smack into this directly and try to break up the Confederates here. Well, we've had our first failed morale check with a unit of the Kimball's 1st Brigade driven back up on the hill, which in a way is kind of what Kimball wants to have happen. He's going to get a chance to rally that, I believe. No, I don't know if he's under the pin. I'm not sure if he does. I'll have to look that up. If he does, then it might actually be what he wanted, getting units back up on the hill as much as possible without having to pay for them. Some of the fire coming in pinned a few of the Union units, but now their fire coming back caused some casualties. They took an ammo depletion, though, which only cost them 1 mark, and they have the possibility to recover it from here. I don't know if they're within range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. I think they can trace along the road rates, so I think they'll be able to recover that point, actually, without going in effect before at the end of the turn, basically. But now we have the melees, and we're going in. We're going in where we can, which is here and here. Now, in melee in this, you actually go into the enemy hex. So here what we have is 3 to 1. That's going to be +2 odds. There are no other effects on it, really. So we'll be rolling on here. Oddly enough, morale is not a major effect in melee, as it is in the Brigade series. I find that a kind of a negative to this game. What we get is an engaged result. That means that these guys are still fighting. Now the Confederates are going to have the option to push more troops in or pull out and make a morale check on their turn. And if they're still in there under the engaged marker, then they fight another round of it. Now here we have a leader which we're throwing in. So we're at +3, +1 more for the leader, puts us on the +4 table. Looks pretty good for us. On the +4 table, we capture 1 and force them to retreat 2. Well, there's only 1 strength point there. We have to mark this as captured. Not quite sure how to do that. This is going to cost the Union, or no, not a Union morale, sorry. This is off the 2nd Confederates. I didn't want to do that, because that's the stuff I can erase, is the... So what I want to do is I want to mark this and keep the bar, and that's the casualty, but the fact that it's captured, I'm going to circle it. That indicates an extra step of damage. I believe there's more points for capturing, but I'm not sure. I just want to keep track of it, though, because if infantry can be captured, that's an issue. And now we're in the space here, and we'll face this way so that we have the 2nd Brigade in contact there. Now, we took no losses, I believe, from that roll. So, that was a successful charge with no chance of any problems, no leader loss rolls or anything. Now we got to look at a couple of other things that are left. First of all, these pin markers. Ooh, yeah. Let me take a look at the rallying, see what the ordering is, and whether or not I think I'll be able to rally this. And then also make sure that my small arms can be resupplied. Okay, so the pinned effect doesn't affect the leader's rally capability, and he's able to rally 2 units within his radius. His radius is 5 hexes. He can easily rally these forces, and overall that wasn't a bad result. I had forgotten when units are routed, they count against the Union Army morale. It's a sensible thing. I'd forgotten to mark that, so I'm not going to recover that after taking that loss. All the pinned markers are removed. And indeed, oops, you can't be both pinned and routed. The ammo depletion, I can trace 5 movement points to the supply wagon, so that too is recovered. And I have to remember to use my eraser to recover that. And, well, that's about the end of where we are on this turn. I can move this down. We can take a quick look at what the casualties are like here. Sullivan's brigade is kind of heavily hit, but nowhere near what, say, Burke's is. Burke's is almost at the point of brigade combat and effectiveness, which means he can't really use it offensively anymore. That's these guys down here, and the Union's done a pretty good job on them. I think they're going to be done very shortly. Garnett's taken a few hits, but he's a nice big meaty unit. He can take quite a bit more. Kimball has only taken one, really, and he's in pretty good shape. Tyler, another big meaty unit, hasn't been engaged, so obviously it's in good shape. The Cav are fine. This 3rd Brigade down here is safe. It's looking kind of bad for the Confederates. I think they're going to want to... They definitely want to try to disengage from the situation they're in. They don't like where they are. It doesn't look like Pritchard's Hill is going to fall to them. So now the question is, what do they do? How do they go about fighting in this situation? They're not. They might make the desperate push to try to take the heights of the hill and then turn around and defend it. And that, I think, is probably their best option. But it's going to be kind of a chaotic one. Anyway. I don't remember if I moved this forward. Gonna have to... Yeah, I think I did. Alright. Come back for the next turn. So here I am playing Stonewall still, and I'm in the midst of the Confederate turn, starting to shift their command over. And I notice I want to get more troops into this engaged thing. I want to use my ammo depleted guys. They're good at that. But in order to do so, I've got to pull out of here. And to do that, I've got to take withdrawal fire. Now, in order to withdraw this way, which I want to do, let me get my leader out of there, because he's not going to generate any fire. He's going to just go on his own, and he'll be in here. But I spin, and now I'm getting out of here, and now I get shot. And let's see what happens. I'm taking 4, 8, 16 firepower with an enfilade, which is going to give me a column to the right. I'm all the way at the worst chart possible. I only take 1 hit, though. So that casualty is to Sullivan's 2nd. And here's a problem. Sullivan's now brigade combat ineffective. I think that may mean he can't get in there. Let's take a quick look at how that works. No unit may initiate melee. Well, that's not initiating. However, if we have a rout, we have a problem. So, we've got a potential issue there, but I've gotten out of here at 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have to pick up my casualty marker here. Now I'm going to incur more fire before I can go in. But that's okay. I think. Could be the whole command just routes though. And now, well, got to get some of our others into place. Let's move here. And we'll take an anchor here. I'll move some of my other pieces up. So you saw most of this down here, but one of the big differences, well, here's the 3rd Brigade pushing forward, and then the Cav has moved over here, dismounted, and is going to shoot up Tyler's column there. It is in column, that's going to give him some shifts. Hopefully it's enough to do some damage, but it could just be endangering the Cav at this point. It is going to probably force the Union to try to engage that Cav because they want to wipe it out if they can. It's worth too many points if it gets through. It's looking like a gloomy day for the Confederates, though, I'll say that much. Well, the end result wasn't too dramatic. The Confederates managed to pile their troops in here after some limited fire going back and forth. You got some pins where the Union was mildly affected, but we didn't get any major hits in on them. The only big painful thing, the Confederates, this artillery is now dead, essentially. I'm going to put it up here. The crew is gone, It can't be used anymore, but I think the ammo could still be taken from it if need be. So there's another nappy there that I could pull ammo from. The melee ended up being rolled on the 0 table, and it gave a retreat 2 to the Confederates, which meant they got to pull out of there, coming out through this way, and the Union's positioned right in front of this artillery now, which can't be a pleasant place. That thing just unlimbered, and it's going to hurt a lot. Nappies at that range are going to be ugly, but, well, we'll see how it all works out. Anyway, the Confederates didn't fail their route check, so they're still standing there. And I guess that's about it. We'll move to the Union side of the turn there. So the Union spent its 10 points this turn, positioning Tyler's brigade up on Pritchard's Hill, as well as facing the cav with them. And actually I ought to consider whether I can put them in a better place. And shifting Kimball over to help maybe defend Pritchard's a little better. There's still a gap here that's kind of exploitable, but I think by shifting in this way, opening up a gap here as well, it may actually be to the Union's advantage. Couldn't push harder with Sullivan's brigade here. I don't have the points. I'm at 34. Anytime I drop below 30, I'm going to start causing real problems for the Union, and I do not want that to happen. In fact, if I have a bad casualty turn, I'm going to face demoralization effects, which I really don't want to see. Alright, well, let's take care of the combat, and I think we're going to see some melees, because the Union want to hit the cav here and wipe it out, and they want to hit here and do some damage as well. And I've declared a number of melee attacks. Some of these are not going to happen. The Confederates are going to retreat before combat. I just want to show where these are happening. Over here, I would have loved to hit this cannon with one, but I can't, because I didn't have... I didn't allocate points for the second to be active this turn. So all they can do is stand and shoot at each other from here. Alright, well, let's see what happens with these. I think the Confederates are going to pull back from most of them because their strengths are much, much weaker. But that necessitates a morale check. Well, we saw some significant losses take place. First of all, the horse artillery, the Cav's artillery contingent has been captured in its entirety. That couldn't get away. It was unlimbered, ready to open fire. Well, the Cav just can't stand in this game, and I know that. I erred in putting them in the way. Basically, Ashby's Cav has been wiped out. He's down to 1 strength point there. Down here, well, one of the units withdrew with impunity because of the ammo depleted status. The other one should have. He was facing significant odds against him. I think +4, which ended up in a capture 2. Had he withdrawn, he might have taken a kill. There was a 50% chance that 1 strength point would be killed. Of course, there was some chance of doing damage, but he should not have stood around as he did. The Confederates are making mistakes left and right in this battle. There's no question there. Anyway, we're ready to move on to the 4 o'clock turn, and we can take a look at what's happening here. We got Burks's brigade command ineffective. Ashby almost gone. He's got to try to save that 20 victory points by getting out of the way. Garnett's not in great shape. And the Union's in pretty good shape. Only Sullivan's taken any significant hits, and that hasn't been incrementing. Confederates are collapsing, basically. As far as I'm concerned, the Confederates are going to try to withdraw and maybe go north if they can. That's the best they can do to preserve their situation here. Anyway, that's about where we are.